Okay, so welcome everybody to Shoot the Breeze with my Rockstar friends. Today is Randy Ray Mitchell. First of all, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. That really helps me. Randy, you and I met through a good friend of ours, Steve McDonald. Gosh, I can't remember, 6 or 7 years ago now, when he got you into the studio to record on my album, Feel So Pretty.
Right.
Yeah, and he told me at the time that you'd been Donna Summer's guitarist for 30 years.
Yeah.
Wow, that impressed me because I grew up with, dancing to the disco queen.
Sure, great songs.
Wow, so can you tell me straight up, how did you come by that gig with Donna Summer?
Oh gosh, that's a great story. What fortuitous accident! I was playing at a in a place in LA, outside of LA, called El Monte. It was way east LA, and it was this huge complex that the bottom half was this like a 5-star gourmet Mexican restaurant, and it was beautifully decorated like a barn. It was like this giant barn theme. And the top half of the complex was this whole bar and dance area, Western style. And the bar had those massive tanks, beer things or whatever. And it was a gay disco country bar. And they'd hire female country artists who would have their backup band. So I was working there with this one artist, female, and on a break. And it was an interesting gig because everybody was a cowboy there. All the guys who dress up like cowboys and dance with each other and chaps and the whole shebang. The bartenders would dress like that. And I got to talking with this one bartender on a break, and he asked me if I knew his roommate, who was a drummer that I'd worked with years before. And these guys weren't gay. And I said, yeah, I know who that drummer is. I worked with him before. I said, what's he doing now? And he goes, well, he just got a gig with Donna Summer. And I said, really? Do they need a guitar player? He goes, I don't know. I'll ask him. Give me your number. And I got a call a few days later from management. And they said, you've been submitted for an audition. Learn these 3 songs off this live video that she had out. And here's your call time, blah, blah, blah. So I go down she owned this complex on Fountain, just off of Fountain and Vine. And it was an old theater, I think it was. And so the bottom section of where the stage was and the screen would be, band was set up, and there was 1,000 guitar players, it seemed like, that were all waiting around to play their 3 songs. And they were sitting in these chairs with all their gear and stuff. And these guys were amazing. It was like a cattle call of who's who guitar players, and I knew who some of these guys were. They got up there and they just shred and play amazing. I thought, there's no way I would get this game. And so it came to my turn, and I played and did everything. And there was people with clipboards and talking and this and that. So, okay, thank you. Bye-bye. And then I got a call saying, can you come back in a few days or next week or something like that on this day? Sure. And the herd of guitar players had thinned out quite a bit. Played again, the same thing. I forgot this part. The first audition I did, when I walked in, one of the roadies recognized me. And I'd worked with him years before, some other people. And he came up to me and goes, listen, I know that you think it's supposed to be a real shredding type thing and just blast and show off and all that. What she wants is a bonehead, dumbass rocker. Play the dopiest, stupid rock you can. Chuck Berry, and even dumber than that. And I thought, I've got nothing to lose, so I played as dopey as I could, and just played a lot of Chuck Berry type stuff.
Right.
And then they called back and then played again, and then they said, thank you, bye-bye. And he said, see? And I got another call back. I came the 3rd time, and there was me and one other guy. And Donna hadn't showed up to any. She was nowhere to be seen, just management, people were in charge of all this. And I looked towards the back of the theater. There was a door way in the back, and she was there. And it was my turn to play. I'm setting up, and I'm starting to get adjusted and all that. And my health wasn't good at that time, and I looked like death warmed over. I was about 50 pounds. I was super skinny and just like emaciated and just looked bad, like a rocker. A drugged out rocker. And even though I wasn't doing any drugs, and she was looking around. And she saw me and she just pointed at me. And I thought, oh, that's my cue just to split. She didn't even want to hear me play. And the clipboard people, they're all around her and they're going,
Didn't look good.
Didn't look good. They played and went, well, what she was saying was, I don't care to see the other guy. I want that guy because of the way he looks.
Oh, you're joking. And obviously the way you played, because you were only 1 or 2 by that point.
Yeah.
So but the way you looked.
Yeah, and they knew that too, because most live gigs are quite a bit about the visual.
Yes.
People listen with their eyes, so she's very aware of that.
Okay. Oh.
So that's how that happened.
And so off you went. So let me just check. I know that your voice is a little quieter than mine. You need more amps, Bob Malone's saying. So can everybody hear Randy okay? Because he's a bit quieter than me. Being a singer, I can project. It's just when the air conditioning came on, I thought maybe it might be drowning you out.
Yeah, it doesn't take much.
Yes. Thank you, Bob. Just checking. All right. Well, I love that story, and I mean, it's just kind of like right place, right time sometimes. Or do you believe that it's in your destiny?
Yes, to both. I think it gets created through destiny.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you were saying, just sticking it out there. I need this great gig. Here's what I would like it to be. And then you wake up in the morning and you just carry on with whatever you would do to prepare for that type of thing.
We were just talking in the lounge room before we started, and Randy reminded me that because I sent out a few messages a couple of early it was only last year, January last year, when I decided I wanted to, do some more backup singing, but I wanted a kind of an international touring band, big act. And I sent you a message as well as some of my other Rockstar friends who I knew were connected. And Randy just reminded me that, wow, I got that email from you, and then the next thing I know, you're on the road with John Fogerty. So we were just talking about how, you put it out there. Yeah, there's no point. I mean, that's something I've learned is to get clear about what I want and be able to say it, speak it out loud and be specific.
Yeah, and you do what you do no matter what. If it doesn't come, you still do as if things going to come, and you work towards it.
Yes.
Because you can't help it. It's what we were talking about. You're born to do something. You can't help sing, write, play guitar.
Yeah. Even though it gets tough sometimes and you think, I should just give up. You just can't.
Yeah.
There's no giving up. You can't. Yeah. It's not in you.
Yeah.
You can surrender, perhaps, to whatever happens, but you just can't quit. Yeah. So did you play on Donna's recordings as well over the years?
I played on either Cats Without Claws or All Systems Go because, the usual case is the producer has his team of players that he's familiar with and knows how to work with. So those are the guys that always get hired first. And the band is the road band, so he's not used to them. But her sound checks were always incredible because her voice was amazing, and she would do all kinds of crazy stuff with her voice. She would do classical type stuff, and she'd do country type stuff, and just imitate whatever, make up things. She'd tell the band, jam, just play something, anything. The band would come over the chord progression, and it would evolve, and we'd just keep playing, and she would scat sing and just start making up words. Well, the front of house guy would have some sort of recording device. Back then, it was cassettes or a small reel-to-reel, and be recording every sound check. And after the show was over, she would listen to the sound check tapes and hear if there were snippets of something worth expounding on to write a songs. And so the band had, she had finished up a few of these things, and I can't remember how many songs were recorded. It may have only been one or two for that album. And I was in Nashville. She had me come out to Nashville because some of these things in the later 90s, she had specifically asked me during sound check, Randy, play something jangly. She was into, jangle was big at the time, so I just played jangle chord progressions. And a couple of these things, she wrote songs around, had me up in Nashville to try and finish them up with it. And so one of them made the VH1 Live and More Donna Summer record, CD or video. And that was it.
I was watching that, a bit of that. I hardly recognise you. Oh, where's Randy? You're there, obviously. Because it was quite a while ago, a long time ago now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We've all got our hair, due to COVID, we've all grown our hair another foot long, because this is the longest my hair's been in years.
I would grow mine long, and then I cut it and donate it.
Oh, really?
And then it would grow out again, and I cut it and donate it. I've done that a few times.
Have you?
So that was one time where, if you look at any videos from just before then, my hair was like down to here.
Oh.
So I had just cut it pretty short.
You had just, because it's quite short.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a blue guitar for that.
Well, you grew up in Los Angeles. What school did you go to?
Oh, I went to high school.
High school, yeah.
The high school was in South Central. It's Lutheran high school. I went to Westchester High for 1 year, and I went to that school for 2 years. I graduated from there in South Central, and I was in the music programs at Inglewood High and at Morningstar High, which is above Inglewood.
Oh, okay.
And I played upright bass also stand-up bass. And, depending on what they needed, if they were short a bass player or the bass section was weak, I would play upright bass. And if they didn't have a guitar player in the pit band, they were doing some production thing, I would hire me to play guitar.
And even I read, there's not much about you on the internet, but I found a couple of snippets of things that you would do. Was it horn arrangements or as well?
Yeah, I had my own bands, and we played school dances.
Did you?
And I would write the arrangements because I studied theory.
That's right. So what happens then as a teenager? You finish high school, you graduate. What do you do then as a budding guitarist to go out and try and start a career?
That was kind of an accidental snowball type thing. Like you were talking about, your career has been snowballing like that the last 10 years. And I don't know how it happened. You just connect and keep playing, and people call in this and that, and it just started working. I was working bars underage already when I was in high school. I was still working bars and hired by older guys. And so I actually thought that I would become a classical stand-up double bass player. And I auditioned for Buell Nighlinger, who was kind of a famous bass player. He played with Frank Zappa and others, and he was a big to-do at the time. And he was at California Institute of the Arts when they just built a brand new campus over in Newhall. And before that, it was like the top floor, a few office buildings, had a building in Wilshire, the Wilshire district. And so I auditioned for him, and he goes, "Yeah, you're okay for an amateur beginner. I'm going to see that you get a full scholarship." And I went, "Great." And then that fell through because the Disney family who was funding the school decided to look into how their funds were being appropriated and decided that the school was being run by a bunch of renegade hippies, which is what it was all about. It's an experimental school. So that summer they cut the scholarships in half and cut the faculty in half, and I was on the bottom half of the scholarships. I just thought, I'm already doing what I want to do. I was already gigging and playing a so I really wanted to do it. I would just through the academics in college, I know I do the same thing I did in high school, just sleep.
Right.
So I thought, well, I'm already doing what I want to do. So it just kept snowballing. And then I met through going to jam sessions. And in Echo Park, there was a lot of musicians. There's always been a lot of musicians in Echo Park. There's a big jazz scene there. And through a friend in high school, whose dad was a publisher and had B.B. King's publishing and a few other people like that, he knew a ton of musicians, older guys. And he said, well, come on to this jam session. So I met this guitar player named Barry Swag. And sweetest guy. He still works around. And he has probably one of the biggest vocabularies musically that I've ever met. Anybody. Took a shine to me, and we exchanged numbers and kept in touch. And he got called to do the Pat Boone gig. And he couldn't do it because he just got the Dinah Shore show, which was, I think at that time it was the daytime TV show. He was in the house band for that, so he had to stay for that. And he said, he told him, the management, call this kid. He can do it. He's young, but he can do it. And that was the start of that.
And you told me that you went to Australia with Pat Boone.
I went to Australia with
That the only time you've been to Australia?
Yeah, yeah, fell in love with it. I think, yeah, I went, I think it was in 72 or 70, yeah, it was 73 maybe. I went to New Zealand.
Oh, New Zealand.
With Barry Maguire. You know who he is? Barry Maguire, his big hit was a song called Eve of Destruction.
Oh, okay. No, I'm not. I was telling you about my lack of exposure to pop music.
Right.
There you go. Case in point.
But I didn't get back to Australia. I've always wanted to go back. Came close a couple times. A few different people I've worked with.
Oh, okay, well.
I just loved it because, and I was in Sydney and maybe a 100-mile radius around there because they had what they call just clubs. It was a club circuit.
Right.
And all the major artists would play these clubs, they call them, to drive to these clubs. They take a day or two off and drive to another club. And they bring in major acts and have them all stay at the Seabolt Townhouse. Right. I remember that.
Yes.
And it was Ry Cooder, Santana, and somebody else I can't remember. But everybody would do for, I think it was a month, for 4 weeks, do all these clubs. And different, like one guy would play one night, and one guy would play this one this night, and then they rotate.
Right.
That.
I didn't realise Sydney had a circuit ever. That's good to know.
And then I had time off, so I'd go to the zoo, and I got to go to see the Three Sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Go down that.
I've never done that. Three Sisters, for those who don't know, are these rock formations up in the Blue Mountains, just west of Sydney. It's a couple of hours drive up there, and it has like a vertical. They call it a train, don't they? But it's
tram.
Tram, yeah. It kind of just takes you straight down the cliff, and so I've never done that, but never really had the opportunity to do it actually. Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
so,
I loved it there.
Yes. Yeah, everybody's a little envious. I know a lot of Americans are saying right now, I want to move to Australia. And I was just bragging that I got another 3 years on my visa. I got another 3-year visa to stay in America. And they were going, what are you doing?
Right.
I love it here. And I get to work with amazing people, don't I? Including yourself. Didn't see my name on your list of credits, by the way.
Well, that's going on.
Thank you. I'm kidding, but I could scratch it in there for you.
Okay.
You told me just a little while ago that your wife was a singer and she sang on a Prince song. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us how that came about?
She was done with the music industry. She hadn't been in a 3-girl group that had a bad experience, did the record, and then money, blah, 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 as it happens. And so she was pretty much finished, and she got a call one night, and it was people who, I guess, were connected with this studio, a major studio. They said, we want you to come down and sing on a Prince song. And oh boy, I get to meet Prince. And so she beelined it down there, and he wasn't there, but his people were there. And they played her this song. They said, it's a female vocal on here. We want you to copy it verbatim, and you'll be the ghost singer on this song. And so she did it, and then another girl came in, and they did background vocals. And as it turns out, the song was Erotic City, which was Sheila E. And Sheila E. wasn't that good then, I guess. But anyway, I know my wife's voice so well that when I listened to Erotic City again after she told me, I went, it's your voice. It's her voice that they pushed up in the mix. So that's...
You know her voice.
Yeah.
And did she go on to work with Prince?
She did not. It was Morris Day and the time. We were doing the Purple Rain tour with Prince. And Morris Day asked her to go. And she had a baby at that point. So she said, I can't stay home and be mom to my kid.
That was, wow. Does she regret that, not being able to go?
No.
Of course not. She had a beautiful baby to take care of.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I love that story. We're in your studio here at the moment. You've got a wall of amps here.
A room of guitars over there.
What's happening with what are you up to these days? You're not touring, obviously not this year, but do you actually, first, I want to ask you, do you miss touring?
Yeah.
You do. You love it?
Yeah, I dig it. I really like it a lot. I like the fly dates a lot, and the bus. I like okay. It depends on the people that are on there with you. It's like you're traveling in a submarine,
right?
In your own little world. But the people that I bus with most were Don's band. They were really cool. They're all Nashville people. I was the LA guy.
Right.
They'd order a burger for me and say, put sprouts and avocado on his.
You're the hippie.
Yeah, LA. And but the bus is cool. But I like the fly dates a lot too. I don't mind the airports.
Yeah.
And the waiting, because I like watching people. Yeah. And I like being catered to on the plane.
Yes, I agree. And since I've been doing the bus touring, I actually love it. I'm not so keen on the whole, 3 a.m.
Oh man! Yeah, if you're a light sleeper, forget it. When they turned the corner, it was like, I'm
no. First night we're in Europe, and I'm like, we're all gonna die because your feet first in the bunk, and you've got a little curtain.
Yeah. And
it's nice, it's cozy. But it's funny you were saying it's like being on a submarine, because I was being interviewed the other night by another guy on YouTube, We Are Legion, Bill Metz, and he said, "Oh yeah, I was in the Navy. I know what you're talking about." So yeah, it's so funny how you said that.
Yeah.
So your feet first, because you don't want, if the bus pulls up, you don't want your head,
Right.
going head first.
Yeah.
But it's a trip.
Yeah.
It takes a bit of getting used to, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, because you got your submarine environment, and then you got your coffin that you get into with your little flip down TV.
Yeah, which I never watched.
Yeah.
But you miss it. Are you not touring just because of COVID, or are you choosing to stay home and do more producing, or what's happening now for you?
No, I do whatever comes to me pretty much. If I got called for a tour, the last touring I did was with Edgar Winter, and that was I think almost 3 years ago. In a series I only played with him for a couple of months. I was subbing for his guitar player who had taken a gig in Japan that he couldn't refuse. And that was the last touring I did, and that's another one of those things that just kind of came to me too.
Okay.
Literally out of the blue, I had a week to learn, I think it was 18 songs. Something happened with the guy that he had lined up. He called me up and says, "Man, we're going to take off in a week. Can you do all this in a week?" I go, "Sure."
Always say yes.
It's the only time I almost called up and said, "I cannot do this." It was so difficult, and he knew it. And he was very generous in understanding that and compensation and all that. But the Edgar Winter show, most shows there's an ebb and flow, and there's a a little break for the audience, maybe a bow or something. No, his starts at 11 and goes up from there. It is raging the whole time, and it's all dependent on the guitar player because it's a power trio behind him. And he plays some keys, plays great sax, and then sings. So it's this guitar power trio, and it's rock. It is real rock.
Okay.
And to learn all those songs in that length of time was really difficult.
And how many different guitars? That's something I notice about guitarists. They travel with a whole array of different guitars for different sounds, obviously.
You know, I saw Jeff Beck. Well, in the old days, I guess, throughout the 70s, guitar players would just use one guitar. And I'd seen Jeff Beck when he first came over here with Rod Stewart. He played one guitar the whole show. And then I saw him a few years later with Beck Ballard. I happened to see him with one guitar. And then I saw him in the early 90s, played one guitar. He tuned it himself if it was out of tune. And every gig I've had, there's been a couple where I've had to bring several guitars and an acoustic guitar and maybe a 12-string and some different things. But for the most part, the Donna show, it's not based around guitar. So I could just play one guitar
Fantastic.
for the whole show.
Oh, that's cool.
And the Edgar Winter thing was just one guitar.
Oh, good. Okay. So can you tell me a bit about what you're doing here in your studio? You're producing or are you...
Producing, and people send me songs that they want me to mix. And I produce artists and groups. Sometimes groups come in, there's a, you can't see on the camera, there's a house drum kit, an old Gretsch drum kit. So I do tracking dates here too, because it's a good sized room. It's 35 feet long, and there's a 9x12 ISO booth in the back. So
I saw you had Eric Eldinius tracking for you. Was he is Billy Idol's drummer, good friend of yours too, Eric. Was he tracking here?
He didn't do it here. He's played here before, but because he was already set up in his place with his little mic scene and all that, for what I needed for this particular song, I said, let's just go with what you have.
Okay.
Your scene.
And what's your studio called?
This studio is called Akadak.
That's funny.
And it's because in the early 90s, I had to have my own publishing company. And ASCAP said, okay, pick out 3 names that you don't think anybody else is going to have for a publishing company name. And for some dumb reason, the Flintstones came to mind. And if anybody knows of the Flintstones or ever watched them, Barney and Fred would go to the Water Buffalo Club to see the Grand Poobah. And to get in past the door, there was a password. And the password was Akadak, Dak, Daka, Ak. Akadak. And it was the first one, and it stuck.
Well, when you told me that, I thought you were talking about Akadaka, which is AC/DC in Australian. We call AC/DC Akadaka. So I just thought that was quite amusing. I'm thinking, wow, he calls his studio after AC/DC.
I never heard that.
No, because it's an Australian slang for him, for that band. I've got a question here from Karen Nash. She's a Warren Zevon fan. She wants to know what it was like working with Warren, and I believe that you recorded on his The Wind album. That was right before he passed, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It was as he was, he was sick. I was working with Billy Bob Thornton at the time, and Billy was friends with him. And the doctors, just shortly before he started hanging out, told him he only had, I guess, 2 or 3 months to live. And he didn't want any treatment of any kind. He said, I just want to go out with some kind of dignity. I don't want to lose my hair. I don't want to just be unhealthy while I'm dying. So he would come and hang out at Billy's studio and just live his life. He smoked and he drank on top of his cancer meds. And it was a comfortable studio, so he brought his producer down, who was an old buddy of mine from the 70s. We played country gigs together. Jorge Calderon. He was a force in his own right. He's an amazing human being and musician. And worked with a lot of people. was Warren's musical director and producer. So he would come down there and they'd do some of Warren's last record, record some of it there, and some of it at some other places, Sunset Sound and some other studios. And he would bring his engineer, and because I was engineering quite a bit for Billy too, doing Pro Tools and playing guitar. And this one particular night, Warren was just hanging out. Billy was trying to do a song, and at that time, Billy could just pick up the phone and just call anybody, and they'd come over. Joe Walsh would come over one night, and record with him. And this night, Tommy Shaw hung out quite a bit there too, and he was great. He was very cool too. And this night he was there. John Waits.
John Waits.
Waits, yeah, he was there.
I always get confused about it too.
They were trying to write something with him. And so he was hanging out, and Billy's other guitar player was playing acoustic. And Steve Gorman, the drummer for the Black Crowes, was playing. And Warren was at the Hammond B3 organ, but everybody has said in their headphones and monitors, just take him out. Because he would just, and to get a vocal on it or get a part on it, he couldn't last very long. So we were trying to do this one song for Billy, and it wasn't coming together. Do a take, everybody would come in and listen. It just wasn't good. Do another take, go out and come back in. After like the third or fourth time, we were pretty wore out. And then we came in after this one take and listened, and it wasn't happening. So it was just like silence. And Warren just pipes up. Warren was funny, very funny, and didn't take himself seriously. He goes, hey, wouldn't it be funny if I did Knockin' on Heaven's Door for my last record?
No.
And everybody went, eh. And it was very awkward. And then silence again. And Billy said, let's do it. No. Set him up in the vocal booth. And I thought, this will last long because he can barely get out a verse before he poops out. We did it. And he got all the way through. We came and listened. And it sounded really good. And he sounded good. Wow, that sounds good. And the assistant engineer goes, well, let's do it again. And Billy goes, yeah, okay. Here we go. So we did it again, and it wasn't quite as good. But that's the one they kept.
Oh, really?
And yeah. And I played this sloppy slide through it, and it wasn't that great. The slide guys on the record were David Lilly on lap steel, and Rykoot. They were going to play the whole album, and those guys hadn't played together in 20 some odd years. So this is a big deal. So they were going to replace my part. It was just a new thing. That was it. And I ran into Jorge, the producer, months later. And I said, so who ended up replacing my part on that song? And he goes, I played it for both of them. And I said, well, that's fine. I said, so my part is on there? And he goes, yeah. And I go, well, can I fix it? It wasn't very good. Can I at least doctor up some of it? And he goes, oh no, it's too late. The record's made. And I go, no. And he goes, oh yeah, better than that. It's the single.
Oh. So you're not happy with it still, or are you just like that? They must have been happy with it, and
they were happy with it. I'm still not happy with it.
Oh, isn't that a shame? Would you prefer they kept the first one, or was that the only take? Yeah, first one you prefer.
I do.
Yeah.
But that worked out because there was people that were big fans of Warren Zevon and heard that, and one of the fortuitous calls was a producer in Santa Cruz, and he said, "You the guy that played on that song?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, well, "Do you want to come up here and do some playing for us?" Yeah. So I did a few projects out there.
So one thing leads to another, always, isn't it?
Yeah. No matter how I felt about it, somebody else liked it enough.
Yes, and hence it's who you know, I suppose. It's not who you know sounds cliche. You've got to have the goods, obviously, too. But and then it's who you know, who you meet, and who you can impress. Yeah. That's a great story. Did you get to meet Bruce Springsteen or Tom Petty? Because they were I saw videos of them in the studio too, and
that was at Sunset Sound. And I went. Billy took me down there once with him I didn't play, but Ryker and David when we were there, and Jim Kellner was there. So I was just hanging out, but that was that night. But several other times they were recording the setup for cameras and all that for the video shoot of Springsteen going there and whoever else.
Right. Yes.
It's part of the tribute to Warren.
Right. Well, we've all got to go and have a listen again now to Knockin' on Heaven's Door, Warren Zevon's.
And I forgot, completely forgot, until they sent me that Grammy certificate thing that says for guitar and vocals.
Oh, really?
And I sing with people. I'm not a singer, though, and I was never asked to sing. But this night, Billy was there, Tommy Shaw. They had some singers, and John Waits. They said, "Rainey, come out and sing." So we ganged around the vocal. No.
Oh, great. So you got a credit and Grammy for that.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, that's fantastic. Do you have any insecurities like about that you've had to overcome and still do have to overcome to do what you love to do?
Yeah. Yeah, that's always a work in progress.
Is it?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So care to share or?
Just,
anything
I don't
stands
think
out?
it's unusual. Just insecure about if I'm going to play the right thing, if this is going to work, if people I'm going to work with or something that's thrown at me is going to work out.
Right.
It's just, pins and needles a little bit.
It's kind of comes with the job, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It can be terrifying
Yeah.
to not know. Because when you go into a session, you just don't know what's going to be thrown at you, and you're nervous to start with. I mean, I even get a little bit nervous doing these little chats. Just it's the unknown, isn't it?
Yeah, and coming up with something that is hopefully going to be pleasing to the powers that be, the producer and the artist and whoever else. They're going to go, yeah, or they're going to go, you got anything else? And then you get the insecurity start coming.
Right. Well, clearly you're. Clearly not even your best work is good enough for Warren Zevon. So so you've got it going on, obviously. What's your definition of success? Just a couple more questions for you.
Oh, boy, that's I've never thought about that. I've heard.
That's why I love this question, because Kenny Aronoff, who I interviewed last, he said the same thing. Nobody's ever asked me that, and I find it to be a fascinating question because we all have a different definition of our own success.
Well, I suppose, and I've worked with a lot of artists that have had what you call great success, gold platinum albums and Grammys and whatnot. Still, they go through periods of, gosh, am I good enough? Is that really success? Once you're there in the world's eyes, that's success, but does it feel like it? And there's something else you want to attain. You always want to do better. Hopefully, if you don't feel like that, then you better do something else. But I think maybe success, to try and answer the question, would be just doing. It's incremental. Like at the session, I do something. I finish a song with gang of parts that everybody's really happy with, and I go away thinking this day was a success. That's a success. And I can give a bunch of examples of that. Having a great gig on stage, not falling over when Donna Summer expects me to do something silly like run across the stage. It's not silly. It's visually exciting to the people.
Yeah, Randy, go.
Yeah.
I like that. It's incremental. And in fact, Kenny said pretty much the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he said the same, which is why, I love it because he said, well, you work towards something, and if you achieve it, or when you achieve it, that's success.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's great. I have one, well, you're going to love this question if you love that one. I have one question I think there for you. It's been wonderful chatting with you today and seeing you again, Randy.
Yes.
And thank you. I'm so glad you agreed to do this because you can see we're 6 feet apart, and I prefer to do these in person. And I have quite a few other Rockstar friends who I've asked and they want to do it, but I've just decided that I want the in-person vibe. And so those are going to have to wait until the end of COVID, and we can get together and do them. So I really appreciate you having me in your home, and thank you to your lovely wife Lillian, who's also a rock star, and obviously. What's your one big realization in life? Like, we go through life and we gather lessons and we gather wisdom, hopefully, we learn and we grow. Is there something that stands out to you that might be able to help others who might be struggling a little bit now with what's going on this year? Something that you've learned to rely on? If you're struggling a bit, something that helps you through a hard time?
Oh, gosh. I mentioned that guy, Barry Swag. He had a few gems that he passed on to me. And this one time I was having a tough time with just playing. And in a rut. I was in a rut. They call it just a rut. There could be a myriad of reasons, lack of sleep or personal things happening in your life, strife or stress of some sorts. I was not feeling very successful with anything I was doing in my playing. It was just like I hated everything I did, no matter what I did. He said, all you do when you're in a rut is just go through it. Just keep doing it. Just keep playing. Just no matter what, he says you do get through it.
Right.
So I think that's kind of a life lesson. No matter what, you do get through the other side of whatever it is you're going through. And the thing to grab onto, to help you through it, is just to do what you do. When you wake up in the morning and you're born with some burning desire in your heart, you need to sing, you need to write, and you can't help it. I know I need to come up, get up and just do this, and start working on music of other people, and just work and work. That's all we can do.
Right. And some days I find I don't even want to do any of that, and I have to say to myself, it's okay. Mm-hmm. Just read a book or do something else. You don't have to always be productive.
And sometimes that's the thing that gets you through.
I think there's a lot of pressure on humans today to be always achieving, always being productive, and plus with social media, we're always seeing everybody puts their best foot forward, and we're always seeing. I know I do. I use it as entertainment for my friends, and so I put my best foot forward. That people don't always know what you're really feeling. Yeah. But so I think we have to be. You're right. Just time. My sister said to me the other day. She said, "I love it. Just time heals everything. Just if you're having a hard time with anything, just know that this too shall pass."
Yeah. Nothing ever stays the same, and everything changes.
Yeah. Well, I feel honoured and blessed, Randy, to be in the same room with you today, and maybe we'll get to work together again.
I hope.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks again. Lovely to see you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope you've enjoyed our chat today. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Right on cue.